Hey everybody, this is Rock again. I'm on a roll. Today looks like I'm going to be making two videos. A while back I had mentioned that I was going to start basically vlogging all of my blogs in hopes to reach more people. And part of that was talking about my life story as well. Now, I have been kind of dreading doing that because it's one thing to put all that on paper, written down, and you send it, you can just pull back. But making a video of that is a little bit more intense, I guess. But I'm going to go ahead and just do it, and then we'll see what happens from there. So just to give you guys a bit of a background, which would talk about my life story a little bit. I'm a person that has struggled with transitioning from victim to survivor of sexual abuse for a little while, and I still struggle with that daily. I would say it's a good struggle in the sense, but because it keeps me kind of moving forward. So just so I haven't lost you guys, I was assaulted as a child, briefly, and more or less into my teenage years by my father. Like I said before, it had happened to me twice in my pre-teens. Once when I was about 7 or 8, and then again when I was about 9 or 11, give or take, you know. So the abuse really started when I started puberty, about 8th grade. I think the album Dookie, Green Day Dookie, and whichever other one, Offspring, was out at the same time. And I remember that it had happened right around the same time that I had, as a young boy, started masturbating. Now, to make it as honest as possible, you know, I've been assaulted everywhere. In different countries, on vacation, the whole shebang. From my bedroom to showers, camping, visiting friends. One of the earliest childhood memories I have is about being assaulted by my father. And I can't help but think that the importance of how we speak and treat our children. No child deserves to be abused. And the kind of memories and thoughts that I have on a daily basis, I don't wish that upon anybody. Now, having said that, these thoughts have dissipated. I'm only kind of following my blog here. So my father basically was a police officer at the time. Also assaulted some of my friends after a night of heavy drinking. This night, which would eventually lead to his arrest, is, you know, burned in my memory, basically. It's one of those nights you hope that would never happen, and it's almost like a dream, you know what I mean? You know, that night is in my memory because I sometimes regret not having done anything sooner, not having gone to the police, not having contacted help prior to that, which would have maybe avoided all of that, right? But, you know, I gotta cut myself some slack. I was young and didn't, you know, was inexperienced. I loved my father, I was confused. You know, so basically I know it's not my fault, but sometimes I can't help think about that. So after that night, you know, everything went back to normal. My father was more or less arrested within that Christmas break of 98, 99, give or take. I remember my mom waking me up and telling me my dad was arrested, that sort of stuff. And she had said that some kids were accusing him of sexual assault, and I remember her kind of like feeling that it was gonna just be over by lunch. You know, oh, it's not. You know, just some kids are just like that. I, however, knew exactly what was happening. I knew how this was going to affect us and everything. So I remember grabbing my mother by the shoulders and saying something like, "Hold on, it's going to be a bumpy ride," you know, and that she would eventually get the whole picture after I'd come back from the police. I think it was OPP at the time. This was in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario, Canada. This would be the last day that my brother and I saw my father for about 9 months, give or take, which at the time, honestly, it was a very freeing moment for me, probably the best 9 months of my life. I felt kind of a bit of weight, almost too much weight, come off my shoulders. It's like, you're holding a rocket back, and then all of a sudden, instead of just letting it kind of go up gradually, you remove whatever's holding it back, and it just skyrockets into the sky. That's kind of what happened to me. It's where I experienced a lot of things, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, losing my virginity, that sort of stuff. I was coming out of my shell, I guess, on warp speed, if I can say that. And like I mentioned before, even though my father was abusive, he had that was one side. There was still the other side where he was disciplined, and you listen to your mother and that sort of stuff. So not having him there, it was more or less a free for all. I remember even having my first pregnancy scare during this moment. I was still in high school, and I was contemplating getting a job and stuff. We had spent a lot of time with my aunt and uncle, Dave and Fran, and their kids, which I still have connections with today. Thank God, we were able to mend some of those relationships. But because of my mother wanting to see my father again, there was this kind of backlash that happened within her side of the family. I understand it a lot more now than I did when I was younger. When I was younger, I thought it was more of a disownment, which it kind of was, but it wasn't. I mean, it was them worried for my mother and for us, and them taking a stand, and my mother going in a different direction. I look at that whole situation, and I really look at it as a learning opportunity for more kindness and more compassion, in not giving necessarily people ultimatums, but also on the other side, listening to what other people have to say and learning from that, and learning that sometimes not driving, being in someone else's car, emotional baggage car is what I mean by that, is not the best thing, and that you probably should just step back. I was not happy when my mother wanted to get back with my father or take him back. I initially thought to myself, oh, this is going to be the shit show it was before, and I was pretty emotional about it. When I had met him the first time after 9 months, I was heading to a birthday party before a bowling thing, and I remember being very emotional, crying and stuff like that. And the second time I saw him again, or the third time, I'm not sure, I remember having a different approach. I was thinking to myself, things are going to be different. And I remember saying to my father, I see you more as a friend right now, in hopes that he would get the message that things were going to be different, and that I didn't see him like my father anymore, that sort of stuff. He had said that he was always going to be my father, and which was true. I mean, that didn't change anything, but it was more or less a lack of communication skills on my behalf, instead of just saying, it's not going to happen, your abuse is not going to happen anymore, that sort of stuff. I was trying to, I see you more as a friend. And he was like, well, yeah, but I am your father. I'll always be your father, which I understand now. So at this point, my mother and father are back together, more or less. And even, like I said, despite the expressed concern from her family, my father was about to be sentenced in this time. He had spent some time in prison, but not while waiting to be trialed, basically. But he had also been released after. I'm not sure exactly. I know that he was back in Sturgeon doing some other things. Just to paint you a picture for this time, we're all getting along, and things seem to be moving in a good direction. The family's close. Our family was always close, but always had that black sheep kind of lingering in the background, which is the abuse. So having the family getting close again really had me confused. I was happy without him, because I knew that it meant, no more abuse. But I also longed for a family. I also wanted my family back. So it was very confusing for me. And even if I really hoped for change. Like, I hoped that the family would be better. Like, I hope that we would learn. So before he was sentenced, we spent some time together with my father, my brother and I, in North Bay. And we had great time, arcade, supper. I think we rented a movie or something like that. It was really fun. We didn't see him in court, but we were in the room prior to him going into the court, and this was like, he's like, this is it, I'm going to be sentenced, I'm going to go to jail after this. So it was very emotional, crying, you know, I remember that, and feeling like I was losing my father again, even though I was kind of torn between being happy of being alone, but it was really weird. I mean, the best way to explain it somehow is like, you know, you have a sore tooth, you know it's sore, but you can't stop pressing it. You know it's going to be sore when you keep pressing it, but you keep pressing it because somehow you kind of like that pain. I don't know, it's weird. So my mother made the decision to actually take him back, and again we had the backlash from the family, and I'm reading a little bit here. She received a letter from the family saying that, you know, Pepper would be turning his grave or turning over his grave. This is vaguely what I remember. And, you know, basically it meant being cut off from our family, from our cousins, from our aunts and uncles that I'm only going to speak for myself, but I love dearly. Still to this day, my cousins, you know, Jason, Jeff, Christine, David, I hold you guys in my heart forever. Like, unreal. Anyways. So I really feel that a part of me feels that, you know, we were robbed of all that potential fun that we could have had with these cousins of ours. But I realized that there's no point in dwelling about that. I mean, it's up to me to make those connections strong again, and which we have. And as a matter of fact, we're going camping with the Doers next weekend, so it's going to be a blast, right? So like I said, I'm not blaming anybody for this whole disownment or anything like that. I understand what my aunts and uncles were doing at the time. You know, they want to protect their kids, and as a parent, I get it, right? I totally get it. It's unfortunate that in the midst of all this, you know, the children are the ones who are affected the most. And I really think that it's a good lesson for me, anyways, personally, to act more like a child, you know, to forgive more like a child, to look at life more like a child. If you can eliminate everything in your life right now, all the bad things, and go back to your childhood state, wouldn't life be special? I mean, I know that you can't go back just playing, you know, pongs or marbles or whatever it is you guys played when you were kids, but there's certainly a balance in between that, and we get so caught into being adults that we forget that we once picked our nose and tugged on people's hairs and threw spitballs, and we had fun, and we really, having a child now has made me realize that that part of me, that boy inside of me that I always keep dear, can come out and play. And I really hope that these vlogs have or will help you in at least another education, as well as, if you haven't read the blog, well, here's another way of you kind of diving into my world here a little bit. And I hope it encourages you to share your story. Everybody's story has value. I'm learning that a lot. And one story is not better or worse than anybody else's. It's all relative to your own reality. You know, how many realities are there? Well, arguably as many as there are people, because we all see differently. We all see life differently. So I'm going to pretty much end it there for now. I didn't think it was going to be that hard. It's not that hard to tell you this story. I hope that you guys can go through this 14 minutes and 30 seconds by the time I'm done this. My thoughts are with you at all times. I love you guys, and I really hope that this can help you. Your comments and your feedback would be amazing and always welcomed. Thank you, and have an outstanding day.